Well, here we are again. Greetings and welcome finally to the 70th episode of Morrowind Showcases, and as always, I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy. And this episode actually marks our 4-year anniversary. We started the channel about 4 years ago in late July, and since then we've showcased over 1,000 Morrowind mods and nearly 300 Oblivion mods, not to mention hosting some 35 mod interviews and a few podcasts besides, and much more. I can honestly say that when we started, I really didn't think the channel would, still be going on 4 years later. But, well, here we are. And really, I just had to thank you all for sticking with me so long, even when the channel has gone through periods of relatively, low activity. And while I admit, I've been a bit worn down recently, we're going to try and get things back on track, going into the future with more mod showcases, more interviews, and of course, more modding competitions. But having said all that, let's get back to our, episode introduction here. And today we have 13 mostly Morag Tong themed mods reviewing pleasure. This famous Assassin's Guild in Morrowind is one of the few factions that we've never, dedicated an episode to before. And then there's a ton of mods, involving the Morag Tong to some extent. And we'll be looking at just a few of them today. And of course, as always, you'll find a list of download links and also, timestamp annotations down below. So let's go ahead and get started here. And our popular mod of the week this week is Threads of the Webspinner completed by Curmudgeon, and also Vegtabill's Threads of the Webspinner by Vegtabill. And yes, that's right, we're actually showcasing 2 different mods for our popular mod of the week this week. Not only because they do similar things, but also because they're just, completely compatible with one another. And of course, depending on how much you want added to the Webspinner questline, you may prefer one of these 2 mods over the other one. And in any event, the bigger these 2 mods is without question Threads of the Webspinner completed, which does quite a lot really, expanding and overhauling the headquarters of Morag Tong and Vivek, including lots of redecorating and new interior lighting, as well as new rooms, new services, new NPCs, and much more, as we'll see here in a moment. And anyway, we're just going to explore the new additions here for a bit, which includes a new dining area, new services such as an alchemist and a smith. There's also a set of personal quarters for the second highest ranking member of the guild, and an updated layout for Inu Halalu's office on the 2nd floor. And now real quick, before we take a look at the rest of the features in Curmudgeon's mod, I wanted to show off the main feature of Vegtabill's mod, which basically adds in-game dialogue hints to where you can find most of the 27 threads of the Webspinner. There's a unique dialogue topic for each of these various items, so you can ask Halalu about once you reach a high enough rank in the guild here. And while this doesn't direct you specifically to each item, it does provide hints to where you might find some, which is, more than the base vanilla game ever did. There's also an option for these hints in book form, if you so desire, and also an overhaul of a father's skill that you get as a reward for finishing the quest here. Now, getting back to showing off the rest of Curmudgeon's mod, most of the main features here take place after you've killed Inu Halalu to become the Grandmaster of the Morag Tong. And these features include a Master's Annex, which is, basically a private services wing, with a number of service NPCs, including a Fletcher, a Duelist Centurion Smith, an Alchemist, and also an Enchanter. And each of these NPCs will sell you a variety of items potentially useful to, assassins, but they have 0 bartering gold, so they can't, buy anything from you. And anyway, after you've killed Inu Halalu, you'll be teleported to the other new addition here, the Master's Quarters and Hidden Shrine, where you'll be able to talk to Mafalda directly. And not only that, but you can also use the various skulls here to talk to past Grandmasters of the Morag Tong. And this is, sort of similar to Rise of House Telvanni, which does a similar thing with the spirits of past Telvanni Masters. They each have an interesting story to tell in service to Mafalda. Now, just sort of moving on, another thing to point out here, nearly really every object in this room is a container that you can use to store stuff in, and these are naturally labeled for your convenience. There's even a teleport skull that can send you to any of the various branches of the Morag Tong Guild. And moving on though, there's also an alchemy lab here. Well, I say alchemy lab, but it's really, more of a general purpose lab, with areas clearly marked for enchanting, lockpicking, or just what have you. Having said that though, there is a book here that provides a list of the alchemical effects for pretty much every ingredient in the game. And this might be considered just, a little bit cheaty, but again, you do, only gain access to these chambers after becoming the Grandmaster, so it isn't that unbalanced really. And anyway, there's also, a small bedroom here for the Grandmaster, which is really quite on the modest side of things. And in addition to a bed and some containers for you to use, there's also a note here that provides a list of the locations of each of the random threads of the Webspinner. Except there is, one caveat here. You can't take this document with you, it has to stay here. So you'll have to come back to figure out, where each item is. And now, once you do have all 27 threads of the, Webspinner with you though, you can then choose to go through Mephala ordeals, set challenges to prove yourself to Mephala, and also earn a respect, and also gain, Mephala's skill, which has been given a bit of a boost now. And in any event, once you do, there's a set of 3 challenges that you'll need to go through, all pretty much, combat heavy. And if I'm being, completely honest, this part of the mod does feel a bit, dated, like something you might find in the early to mid 2000s. But compared with the mods that, we're used to seeing today, it just kind of falls a little flat, but that's just, my opinion. And if you feel like this mod is a bit, bloated in terms of features, you can always try out Vegtabill's mod instead. And anyway, that's pretty much all we're going to, be taking a look at here. Again, these are 2 very different mods in terms of style, and they will very likely appeal to different people, but you can play them together if you want to. And that's, just something to keep in mind here. For our House Mod of the Week this week, we have a Morag Tong Grandmaster's Quarters by Master Sam, and this one adds a new house for you to earn once you've, been named Grandmaster of the Morag Tong, which of course you won't be able to access until you've achieved that final rank. And this house here consists of about 2 floors, an upper level including an entry hall, a small display hall here off to the side, which can also just be used for storage or what have you, a small dining area, another small storage room, and a small sort of mixed library and study, all, nicely decorated and finished with an eye towards a more sort of a darker type of character, since after all, this is meant to be the home of an assassin. But anyway, just moving on downstairs, you'll find a rather large open-air hall complete with, upper-level gardens, red lighting, and a shrine to Mephala, which, looks a lot like the shrine we're going to see later on in this episode as part of Wesley's mod, except, smaller of course. And there's also some more storage and display space down here, including a little dining area. And you can also worship at the shrine of Mephala here, in order to cure any ailments that you might have. And, I just have to say, this is a really atmospheric and, nicely designed home. Which is, I would say, perfectly suited for the Grandmaster of a guild of assassins, with a modest amount of decorations, but, still enough space to add your own touch if you so desire. There's also, of course, a bedroom here, though it's a bit on the small side, and, not particularly fancy or anything. Still, it's not like, most assassins need something really fancy for a bedroom anyway. And one last thing to point out here, this mod also comes with a set of Grandmaster robes for you to wear if you so desire. They're perhaps a bit dated in terms of appearance, but that's to be expected. I mean, this mod was released like 8 years ago or something. But otherwise, they look rather nice, and add, just another reason to check this mod out. This week's gameplay mod of the week is Brutal Backstabbing by Merlord. And now, first and foremost, we're going to check out the mod config menu for Brutal Backstabbing here in the main menu. And yes, this mod does require the latest update from the MWC Nightly build, which adds this in-game mod config menu to the main menu, which is pretty handy for turning certain mod features on and off. But anyway, Brutal Backstabbing increases the damage done when backstabbing someone, and it comes with about 3 different options that you can turn on or off, such as displaying a message when you pull off a backstab successfully, whether or not you can only, backstab someone with a short blade or a dagger, and also whether or not the only attack that counts are stabs or thrusts. And with this last option, turned on, swing attacks and chopping attacks will not work when trying to backstab your opponent. But anyway, now that we've just, explained all that, let's demonstrate the backstabbing feature, shall we? By far the easiest way to backstab someone is to sneak up on them, and this can be a little tricky since, Vanilla Morrowind's sneaking mechanics weren't exactly great to begin with. But if you time it right, you can get up, close to your opponent, and since we're using the stabbing only option, we have to make sure that we use a stabbing attack to pull off a backstab here, which deals 3 times the damage of a normal attack. And if you do manage to do it, you'll see a little message, pop up at the bottom of the screen saying backstab. And this is just a really fun and useful mechanic for, thieves and assassins, and thanks to Lewis scripting, it has no risk of causing any conflicts or, performance issues. Just plug and play, and enjoy, finally being rewarded for sneaking up on someone, in-game. And, if you're playing an assassin-type character, there's absolutely, no reason why you shouldn't give this mod a try. It's just absolutely fantastic, and a must-have mod for assassins. Next up we have our Dungeon Mod of the Week, and this week we have Severa Magia Dark Brotherhood Fix by Corsa83, and really this is more of, I would say, an immersion and detailing mod than it is a dungeon mod per se. But in any event, this was one of about 89 mods released for this year's modathon, and basically what it aims to do is make one of the Dark Brotherhood layers that you encounter as part of the vanilla Morag Tong questline a bit more like an actual Dark Brotherhood lair, with, the Black Hand, banners, Dark Brotherhood assassins, and other bits of just gory detailing. And now, instead of a single NPC that you've been sent to kill with a single, table and bedroll and all that, you'll find a number of Dark Brotherhood guards and some actual clutter and detailing that you might expect to find in such a base of operations. But anyway, that's pretty much it. It's a small mod, but definitely worth checking out. For items of the week this week, we have a Morag Tong armor by NazoX9, and now, as the name would imply here, this mod adds a new set of Morag Tong armor to the game, and not only that, but it also adds this armor to most of the Morag Tong members that you'll find in the various, branches of this famous Assassin's Guild. And now, just before we check out this armor in a bit more detail, we're just going to first take a look around the Morag Tong headquarters, so we can, see it on a few different characters here. And it's a really pretty cool looking armor set, with a lot of that classic Morag Tong, red in the design here. And otherwise, fairly similar to some of the other native Dunmeri styles of Morrowind. And you can actually get a set of this armor for yourself after you finish the first quest for the Morag Tong, as you can see here. It's got a really good, sort of stylized feel to it, perfect for would-be assassins, and it has a pretty decent, armor rating for new characters as well. Now, there is, a few other Morag Tong armor mods out there, but this one does, provide a nice alternative with a unique design and style that's, still based largely on the game's concept art. And if you're just looking for a new set of Assassin's armor, or want a better uniform for the Morag Tong, this is just a good mod to check out. And this week's quest mod of the week is Morag Tong Expanded by Shuda, and as the name here would imply, this mod basically adds a ton of new quests to the Morag Tong, guild and Morrowind, and more specifically, it adds a unique quest lines to each of the various guild branches in Balmora, Aldrun, and Sadrith Mora, each dealing with a particular threat, facing the Morag Tong, such as the Dark Brotherhood or Sixth House cultists or betrayal within the guild itself. These new quests will become available to you after you reach a certain rank in the Morag Tong, and they're each sort of a mini storyline. Unlike the Balmora Morag Tong is dealing with an increasing Dark Brotherhood threat on Vardenfell, and during this quest line you'll encounter new dungeons and locations, as well as, revisiting some vanilla dungeons and all that. The Aldrun Guild Hall, on the other hand, largely deals with Sixth House threats, which, seems somewhat appropriate, given the Raydoran and all that. And the Sadrith Mora Guild Hall deals, more specifically with threats within the guild, betrayal and all that fun stuff. There's quite a bit of new questing content here, and this is pretty much a must-have mod for any fans of the Morag Tong out there. It just adds a ton of new content and hours of new questing for this otherwise, fairly small faction, and I would just, highly recommend checking it out. Next up, we have our Landmass Mod of the week, and this week we have Castle Draco by Kukalin. And alright, so first things first, this is not a Morag Tong themed mod at all. As hard as I looked, I could not find a Morag Tong themed Landmass mod anywhere. And the second thing to note here is that this is a, very much an older, out-of-date mod with a few notable issues, including the fact it desperately needs to be cleaned before playing, and that it will also, conflict with temporary builds. And again, we're just running low on Landmass mods to showcase, so a lot of the, ones that we have left are, well, older and more dated mods like this one. And, that's a lot of disclaimers to start out with, but let's move on with our showcase, shall we? And this mod adds a new castle on its own island just south of Vivek City, with a fairly basic exterior, including a walled courtyard, guards, and a main tower. The exterior landscaping here isn't great, but it's passable, if perhaps a bit on the flat side. And now, just to move inside, the main castle opens up into a central chamber that is notably lacking any real finishings or decorations outside of a single altar and a book, and otherwise, is populated with a bunch of burly guards. And to be, perfectly honest, this room doesn't really seem to have much of a function, but it does serve as, an access point for the rest of the castle here. And anyway, as you may have figured out by now, this is a house mod, and it has 3 main floors in addition to a private tower. Each of these floors is dedicated to a particular style of gameplay, such as a training room, where you'll find trainer NPCs, as well as practice dummies that you can just, whack around a bit with your sword, if you so desire. And just going 1 floor up here, you'll find the magical services dedicated part of this castle, with NPCs that can, provide various services like spellmaking, enchanting, alchemy, and training in, magical skills. And there's also a proper, alchemical lab, including ingredient containers for pretty much every ingredient in the game, and a little area for necromancy, interestingly enough. And next up, because this is a house mod after all, we have the display hall, which includes a couple of dozen tables and bookshelves for you to just, use to display your stuff, as well as about a dozen or so heavy chests to, store everything else that you don't want to display, but, want to keep safe from prying eyes. And there's also a small general services wing to the castle here, which includes some, general traders which can buy and sell various goods, as well as a smithy for repairing items if so needed. And lastly, as far as services go, there's a training room for thieves and assassins, including 2 trainer NPCs, a bunch of lockpicks and probes to, train your security skill with, practice dummies for training your archery skill, and also a Morag Tong helm here, which is the closest thing in this entire mod to actually matching our theme. But that's, good enough, don't you think? And moving on to the actual living quarters of this castle here, you'll find a private set of chambers at the top of the tower here, which are really quite cozy, with a lounge area including a roaring fireplace and, a massive couch on the lower level here, and a sizable bedroom with a study and another, little cozy fireplace here. This home doesn't really come for free though. You'll need to find the key for it, which is hidden somewhere in the game world. And while this mod is a bit dated in the landscape department, it's, pretty well put together, and might be worth, taking a look at. For our NPC Mod week this week, we have Antares Big Mod by Archimaester Antares. And, well, what can I say? This is a pretty big mod, and it's one I've been meaning to showcase here for years now, but just never, quite got around to it. And, truth be told, it isn't really strictly speaking Morag Tong themed, though it does cover them to some extent, but it also covers a lot more than that, because it is, after all, a big mod. And the basic idea here is that Antares Big Mod expands the services offered by the various factions in Morrowind, so that they do actually now offer services to the player besides just, training and buying certain goods, as well as, make it so that the player can command, teach, expel, and advance, various members of their own factions and guilds, as well as receive some special perks for advancing high enough in rank through each of the various guilds here, such as, sending out fellow members of the Mages Guild to gather ingredients, which you can, just sort of specify from any of a long list, so you no longer have to, go out there and dirty yourself by collecting your own ingredients once you're high enough in rank in the Mages Guild. Or sending out members of House Haladu to make financial, transactions, which will boost your coffers, of course, or as a part of the Imperial Cult, collect alms for the poor, or just, what have you. There's a few other, various services that you'll gain access to as you rise in rank, but first, let's take a look at some of the more, generic services that are available to pretty much everyone. And now when you talk to an NPC, any NPC in the game, you can choose to target them, and when you do so, you'll have the option to target them for assassination, for theft, or eventually, if you become high enough in rank in, certain factions, for arrest or heresy. And once targeted, you'll need to go and find someone to carry out the job here, like the Morag Tong for assassinating someone, though you could also use the Fighters Guild, a random assassin, or, just what have you to kill a target NPC. There's a lot of different factions and service NPCs offering, assassination services, though their prices may vary a bit on your target. And once you give someone the contract, just wait a day, and the NPC you want dead will show up dead. And on a similar note, you can go to the Thieves Guild and hire them to steal from a specific NPC, and again you'll just have to wait a day, but once the job is complete, you'll find a bunch of random stolen goods in a chest down in the cellar here that you can just loot. And these stolen goods depend largely on the class of the NPC that you've targeted, so they may be a bit more, valuable, or they may just be common items, depending on just who you've targeted. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. There's a ton of other services that you'll now have access to with Antares Big Mod that we just, won't have time to get into here. Like the fact that you can, request a specific potion from an alchemist, or how you can use scouts to fast travel around Vardenfell, or how you can, have smiths and clothing merchants make special items for you, or just so on and so forth. This is just such a massive mod that it would take way too long to just showcase everything, that it does here. Though in a large sense, it provides a lot of role-playing and immersive experiences, making otherwise static parts of the game a bit more just interactive. But before we leave off here, there are just a couple more things to go over, including the fact that in several factions here, you'll be able to request a guard companion once you've reached a high enough rank. And these are pretty much, fully fledged companions they can teach and train and take with you as you explore Vardenfell. And on a similar note, you can also hire mercenaries from the Fighters Guild. And again, these are just fully functional companions with a companion share, training options so you can improve their skills, and just much more. And, while most of this mod isn't really related to the Morag Tong at all, this is just an incredibly amazing mod with a lot to offer. And even in this day and age of Lewis scripting, it's still worth taking a look at and playing for yourself. Though I will say that, personally, I do think it is a bit dated now, especially with all the new capabilities that Lua presents. But hopefully, Antares will come back and perhaps make a new version of this mod, just taking advantage of the new capabilities that MWC just presents with the new Lua scripting mechanics. But anyway, that's just a, one of my hopes, personally. And with any luck, we'll see an improved and advanced, update to this mod sometime in the future. This week's new meshes and textures mod of the week is a new Black Hand Dagger by Story 69. And as the name would imply here, this is a replacer for the Black Hand Dagger, one of the weapons you get as part of the Morag Tong questline. Now, I believe originally it had a generic, sort of a Daedric dagger model, so even though it was a unique weapon, it did not have a unique appearance. And that's clearly not the case here anymore, as this mod provides a completely new and a unique model to go along with this otherwise one-of-a-kind dagger, which now looks a bit more like an actual, traditional assassin's blade than it did before. And this is a rather, small mod though. This replacer only covers this one weapon, so this is going to be a rather, short showcase here. But having said that, it does also add a new inventory icon for this dagger, and otherwise it's just a really nice and cool addition to the game, especially, for members of the Morag Tong. Now, next up, for our Modest Resource Mod of the Week this week, we have Halali Furniture Pack by Rubberman. And once again, this is not strictly speaking a Morag Tong themed mod. And as it turns out, we've already, showcased most of the Morag Tong mod resources out there in previous episodes. So today, we're taking a look at another mod from this year's Modathon, which adds a fairly large, selection of Halalu and Dunmeri style furniture to be used in your own mods as a modest resource. Given the Grandmaster of the Morag Tong, one could argue this is perhaps, just loosely a Morag Tong themed, but all well, minor details. And in any event, this package includes about 30 new pieces of furniture and also ivy that you can use to decorate Halalu, or really any kind of Dunmeri home, including a new bookcase, a desk, a small and large chest, weapon cases, weapon racks, display cases, tables, chairs, a vase, bookends, and jewelry cases, and also a side serving board, a rather convenient piece of furniture if you've, ever had trouble trying to decorate a kitchen-like space. And all the new furniture here comes with textures that fit in with the existing, Dunmeri rich furniture sets, so they can be used together, seamlessly. And there's also about 5 new varieties of ivy included in this package, providing a nice, range of both types and color of ivy that you can use to just, decorate your homes and buildings with. And, this is really just an excellent resource, and I just highly recommend it if you're building any sort of a Dunmeri style interior. For our underrated mod of the week this week, we have Vivek Simple Assassin Home Morrowind Rebirth compatible by Ash Poet. And yes, this is another house mod, which adds a small apartment to one of the, residential cantons in Vivek here. But much like a Master Sam's mod that we looked at earlier, this is very much an assassin's home, located pretty close to the Morag Tong, headquarters, and with a lot of that lovely, red lighting we all associate with murder and mayhem. Now, this apartment has 2 main rooms, including a sort of mixed dining room and a library here in the front, with a table and bookshelves for you to use. And in the back here, you'll of course find your bedroom, including a small shrine and some containers to store your stuff in. And all in all, this is rather, atmospheric and nicely decorated home, perfect for any would-be assassin, regardless of rank. And since this is also compatible with, Morrowind Rebirth, you can also play it with just about anything. This week's Blast from the Past one of the week is the Shrine of Mephala by Wesley. And now, as you probably already know if you follow the Morag Tong, is that their patron god, as it were, is, Mephala. And what this mod does is expand the hidden area in the Vivek Arena to include a proper shrine to Mephala, complete with a number of new members of the Morag Tong, some sinister red lighting, cobwebs, and of course, giant spiders for the Webspinner. And why does it always have to be spiders? I really hate spiders, I really do. But given that this is, Mephala that we're talking about here, I guess it makes sense to have a few, just scattered about in here, however disturbing they are. And anyway, this is a fairly atmospheric edition, and not only that, but this mod comes with a ton of new items geared for assassins of the Morag Tong, such as new weapons, armor, clothing, potions, and so on and so forth. You can see some of these new weapons and armor and clothing styles are being worn by the new NPCs in the shrine here. And needless to say, they all look, pretty good, and really do fit, the darker nature of the Morag Tong. And of course, you can buy some of these new armor and weapons yourself, as pretty much all these new NPCs can sell you various goods, including a number of services like spellmaking and enchanting, that might just be convenient for an assassin to have access to at the, guild's headquarters here in Vivek. And of course, we're just going to take a look at some of these new armor and weapons on my character here. You'll notice that everything has a bit of a darker Mephala theme going on, with a spider on the hilt to the sword here, and a sort of, web-like design with the armor. And really, this is sort of similar to a lot of Wesley's other mods. He's made a ton of clothing and, armor mods after all, and they all sort of have a similar design to them. Perhaps a bit, overly stylized, I don't know. Though I do think they look pretty good myself, and in any event, there's just a lot of armor and weapon options here, including light armor, medium armor, long swords, claymores, I think there's a couple bows, daggers, and other weapons here. And really, there's just a lot of variety here, and if you're looking for some more, assassin gear, or just want a more impressive shrine for the Daedric Prince of the Morag Tong, this mod is certainly well worth checking out. Finally, for our bonus mod week this week, we have Morag Tong, Methys Haladu by Sladdle, and this mod basically sets out to add a quest to one of the more curious mysteries of the Morag Tong, the hidden corpse of Methys Haladu found in the Balmora chapter of the Morag Tong. Now apparently this was meant to be part of a quest that Bethesda just never, actually implemented, but now you can finally solve the mystery behind the murder of this brother of Ino Haladu, as part of a very short quest line that involves hunting down some clues and bringing some rogue members of the guild to justice. Now, we won't be showing off much here in order to, avoid spoilers and all that, but I will, go ahead and just warn you that this mod will conflict with Morag Tong Expanded, because it involves killing NPCs that are essential to that mod's questline. So if you do want to play this mod, I just recommend, waiting until after you're done playing that larger quest mod. But otherwise, this is a fairly simple and short quest that'll, keep you busy for maybe 10 or 15 minutes or, something like that. And anyway, that wraps up today's episode of Morrowind Showcases, and as always, down the links or down below. And I'm pleased to announce that starting with episode 71, I will be moving to a more impressive graphical install of Morrowind, so you can expect to see some really great, new visual changes in our next episode. And anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.